our Pitch Talk special feature segment. As you heard Gezzie's voice introduce it, religion in football is where we're going to start. We've got a few more of these throughout the summer, but apparently, Papi Cisse is refusing to wear Newcastle's shirt on religious grounds as it carries the name of controversial new sponsors Wonga, according to the Daily Mirror. From Saturday, June 8th, 2013, in an exclusive, the paper reports the Senegal star has informed the Magpies of his objections on religious and ethical grounds to advertising the payday loan company while playing for them. Star striker Cisse, a practicing Muslim, is against helping promote Wonga, who have attracted criticism for charging sky-high interest rates that allegedly target the poor. Cisse's two teammates Cheick Tiote and Hatem Ben Arfa are also practicing Muslims. No solution has been found yet, but there is a precedent because former Spurs striker Freddie Canute was allowed to wear an unbranded shirt after he refused to wear the logo for 888.com gambling website on religious grounds when he signed for Spanish side Sevilla. Key to Newcastle's talks with Cisse will be the wording of the player's contract regarding what discretion the club has to make players' sports sponsors logos. Sharia law states that Muslims must not benefit from either lending money or receiving money from another person. Wonga have replaced Virgin Money as the team's sponsors for next season. According to the Mirror, the club is respectful of his religious views, even going so far as to install a prayer room at St. James's Park. The reported protest against the payday loan firm is not the first. Earlier in the week, a 4,500 signature petition among Bolton Wanderers fans forced the club to drop Quick Quid as a shirt sponsor. So this one then was a deal has now been done with them and Fiberlek, a sustainable energy company. So you know what? Yeah, quite an odd one because Papi Cisse apparently having objections to a gambling company supporting, basically sponsoring the club that he's playing for. On religious grounds, I actually can't blame him for having that objection. And at the end of the day, the club really, before they even signed those sorts of deals, I mean, see, it's very hard for me to say that football clubs should be ethical because at the end of the day, football clubs on a general basis are not ethical anyway. I mean, like we've spoken about on numerous occasions, football and its ethics are just, it's non-existent. Football is a very unscrupulous sport, is what I've said recently. So, I mean, it's quite an odd one. And yeah, Sam, we just mentioned the Bolton thing with 888bet. They're changing to Fiberlek, a sustainable energy company, and it's a case of, I mean, it's one person who's basically a cog in the machine, and you can't have a cog running the machine, I will say that much. But at the same time, if a football clubs are generally supposed to be like we are, like Pitch Talk, we the people for the people, we the people by the people for the people, is generally what clubs claim to be. But at the end of the day, I mean, from what I see of corporate business, there's no scruple. On a general basis, there's no scruples there. I mean, apparently Barclays. Apparently, you look at Barclays. You look at Barclays as an entity. Apparently, a lot of how they started was through reparations to slave owners. Apparently that's the story. So it's one of them ones. I mean, there's no real scruples in football. Now, I think people's religions should be respected, but at the same time, as I said, you can't have a cog running the machine. So at the end of the day, if you've got that much of an objection, then you might need to talk about your contract. And wearing an unbranded shirt, I don't so much mind that. It's a good compromise, but it does kind of set a dangerous precedent that might lead to, if he can get that dispensation because of religious grounds, why can't I get it? I'm a Catholic, I don't like that. you kind of open Pandora's box almost. So I think if Cisse's got that much of a problem with it, and if Newcastle are not going to change it or not let him wear an unbranded shirt, then if he feels that strongly, mate, walk. If you feel that strongly about it. So, I mean, Gman Gezzie, what do you think about this? And we're gonna then throw it out. We're gonna then throw it out to the Skypers as well, because in terms of religious grounds, it's still kind of somewhat of a thorny kind of subject. I mean, they don't. When we were sponsored by Carlsberg, they didn't have it on the kids' shirts because obviously it's promoting alcohol. So there is somewhat of a precedent in terms of ethics there. So, what do you reckon?
Well, yeah, you know, I agree with you. Football is unethical. There's certain parts of football where there isn't a form of ethics. You know, money is what generates the game. Do you get what I'm saying? And at the end of the day, the biggest, the baddest, and the most dangerous things to man can make the most money.
Yeah. And cigarettes, alcohol, among others. Yeah. Narcotics.
Because they want to push their names out there as well as, so they're willing to invest in whatever way and try and get in contact with these big entities, you know, to help them put it out there.
Yeah, that's why you see Man United with these big sponsorship deals like the DHL and Liverpool with Standard Chartered, Arsenal with their recent deal with Puma, among others. Yeah, they're trying to make their money.
So, you know, it's a very thorny situation. It's a hard one to actually, you know, pinpoint and say what should someone do, because at the end of the day, ethics v religion v money. You know, what can you say? You know, everybody's trying to put their ideology across, and in a way, you can say, you know, with an ideology, well, not ideology, but you know, with like Muslim players who do not want to play with, you know, that sort of sponsorship, you know, and be seen to be sponsoring, you know.
Well, it's being seen to kind of endorse it almost.
Yeah, endorse it, but you know, in that sort of way, then them wearing an unbranded shirt doesn't really help at all, because if their teammates are still wearing it, you know, it's still a form of endorsement.
No, true.
So to me, it's so phony. It's such a phony. I don't know. I wouldn't know where to start in terms of talking about it, because I could say, oh well, you know what, Cisse, you've got to leave then if you don't agree with it, because your teammates are going to be wearing it, and at the end of the day, in my eyes, from where I'm standing, no matter if you're wearing it or not, you're endorsing it anyway, because you're saying one thing, and you know that term, am I my brother's keeper? Yeah. Well, your brothers on the football pitch are wearing that shirt, which you don't agree with. So at the end of the day, you're still endorsing it no matter what you say. And what you're saying is, as long as I'm getting paid and I don't have to wear it, I don't care what anyone else is doing.
Yeah.
That's my perspective on it.
But there's something very interesting that Eamon said in the Skype chat. Well, they are in a sport where they know thousands of people gamble on them. Isn't that contradicting the point? That's a very interesting point. Because if they had, if you have that much objection to what Wonga are doing, and you know there's thousands of people betting on you at any one time during a 9-month season, then shouldn't you be objecting to that as well? I think Eamon's brought up a really good point there. I think that is an interesting point. It does sound somewhat contradictory.
For me, it's a very phony situation.
It is funny. Yeah, definitely. I mean, Gezzie Fizzle, before we throw it out to the Skypers, Gezzie, have you got anything you want to chuck into this argument?
Yeah, I mean, it's a very strange one, because I totally understand where, you know, Papi Cisse is coming from with the religious angle. You know, that makes sense to me. But having said all that, you know, like we was also saying, the club itself is going to be out to make money. If they get offered a good deal, they're going to take it. It's as simple as that. You know, players' religious beliefs, ethical beliefs, political views, all the rest of it doesn't really come into that. That's not what they're paid for by the football club.
Yeah.
So the football club could actually care a lot less about all of those things. Do you see what I mean? So, having said that, if he wants to take the stance of not wearing the shirt or wearing the sponsored shirt, fair enough. But I think the only way that this can be resolved is for him to leave the club. That really is the only way for it to be resolved. And then it's just a matter of, well, he's really not... I can understand if he takes that stance. But then at the same time, is he really paying attention to what's going on in football right now? In that a lot of football clubs really don't care who sponsors them. They just want sponsors.
Yeah.
You know, not all football clubs are big enough to be like, say, for example, Barcelona, when they were sponsored by UNICEF a couple of years ago.
Oh, exactly.
Right? And, you know, prior to that, didn't even used to have an official sponsor. They used to be sponsorless. It's just like, look, we don't need one. That's not who we are. So, I don't know if it is to be resolved by him leaving. Wherever he goes, there's still going to be that same issue. Do you see what I mean? Because if you go and look into a lot of the big companies that do end up sponsoring football clubs, and I'm talking about kit makers too, right? Are they necessarily ethical?
Well, not necessarily. A lot of companies.
But that's my point. So if they're not ethical and you want to go and decry, say, wearing the club kit for religious reasons or political reasons or ethical reasons, to be honest with you, you might as well get out of football.
Yeah, it sets a dangerous precedent.
Unethical things that happen in football. You know, so many things that all go and clash with your religious beliefs that happen in football that, you know, to be honest with you, it's almost not worth it.
Yeah.
Like, if you've got your money, take it, run, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, it sets a dangerous precedent that someone could just say, that someone could potentially say, well, then again, I don't know if it will hold up in a court of law. If you go and say, well, they've done something that is against my religion, I don't know if you can go into a court of law and get a contract nullified by that. Because if you feel that strongly and you're wanting to leave and you've got 4 years left on a contract, well, if you're not 27 and above and you haven't been at that club for at least 3-4 years, you can't invoke the Webster's clause and buy out your contract. So you might have to take that club to court, especially if they don't want you to leave. So, or you might have to burn so many bridges that they kick you out. Well, you don't want to do that because you never know who's watching. You never know where your next job's coming from.
Well, that's it. And I just think,
one of them.
You know, like you were saying, that the player can't set the precedent.
That's what I mean. Yeah.
I think it's putting the club between a rock and a hard place, just because, you know, in the case of Papi Cisse with Newcastle, he's very, very important to any kind of hopes that they have moving forward. So they actually need him. But at the same time, it's like, well, look, dude, if you feel so strongly, the door's that way.
Yeah. Nah.
Yeah. We paid the money to get you. We paid money to get other people like you. We can replace you. Yeah, it's as simple as that. Yeah. You know, like one of those things.
Well, football and wrestling are very similar. It's one of them ones. You may have someone on top right now, but it's one of them ones. If you're doing smart business, you could get rid of them at any time. If they get hurt, if they get a broken neck or paralyzed or whatever, you can get rid of them and you can make you a new star. And you can make you a new star in a year. So it's one of them.
That is true. But then to go and flip it to, you know, almost any other walk of life, right? You can go and complain within reason about the things that are going on in a particular company or the direction that business is taking on, right? But you see, from when management dropped the hammer, you either get in line and get to know your role and shut your mouth, for another obligatory wrestling reference right there, or you leave. It really is that simple. And for me, I really don't see how this is any different.
I mean,
either you toe the line and you keep taking your money from this club, and you shut the hell up about your own personal beliefs. It's like, well, look, here's the thing, right? It's not the way for him to go and think about it is, it's not necessarily him, yeah? It's the club.
Yeah.
Not him. He as an individual, he's fine. Yeah? He can even, I don't know if he'll be really in a position to decline to appear in the ads, considering that he's like one of their most marketable players that they have now.
Yeah.
But he, you know, if he was to decline to appear in the ads or whatever, it's not him, it's the club. And even then, right? You know what it really boils down to? It's his contract. It's like, listen, we pay you to do this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you don't want to do it, leave.
Well, it's like jobbing. It's like jobbing in wrestling. It's a case of pin me and pay me, or well, if you're not happy with that, well, it used to be in the 90s. You used to have another company to go to. It would be one of them ones. All right, fine. I don't feel like doing the job, so I'm going. So the job meaning losing in the kayfabe lexicon. But I mean, there's been a couple of interesting things said in the Skype chat, and it's a case of there's a lot of these cultural outreach things with clubs anyway, and clubs do seem to be kind of not bending but flexing to meet the needs of a multicultural team. And if you're going to have a multicultural club, you're going to have a multicultural team. There is also that duty of care kind of stuff as well, whereby you want to make everyone feel comfortable. So as you said, Chezzy, it's a case of maybe it's up to the club. It's up to the club. The club have to really kind of set a precedent almost. But,
well, they're the ones with the power. At the end of the day, right? You know, everybody's kind of forgetting in all of this that when, you know, Papi Cisse was presented with a contract, he signed it.
Yeah.
And part of that contract is, oh yeah, by the way, you represent our club, so you wear the shirts, and if we ask you to do any promotions, you do that. Done.
Yeah.
If you really didn't want to, you know what you do? Don't sign the contract.
Yeah.
Don't move to Newcastle.
Yeah, you're not Hulk Hogan in WCW. You ain't got creative control over your character.
That's it.
Another OWR right there, had to. But, all right.
That's it. So it's just like, look, either you toe the line or you leave. Like, I really don't want to appear to be harsh and damning it, because as I say, I do agree with his stance if it is for religious reasons. You know, but at the same time, it's like, look, you're an employee. This is what your employer is telling you to do.
Yeah.
You know, once it's in the job description, even if it comes under and any other duties, you know, that's what you're paid for. If you don't want to do that anymore, listen, you can resign.
You know what? Yeah, there's been some interesting stuff said by Sam and Umbreen in the Skype chat. I'd like to throw to Umbreen first and then come back to Sam, because you know, Umbreen, what is your view on this whole thing?
Yeah, I'll just be quite brief here, but I agree. I echo everything that was just said. I think football, it's implicit what football involves. It's not really renowned for being, you know, a religious institution, right? Whether it's for a Catholic or a Christian. If that's the case, then the sponsorship surely should be. It should be. You know, people, Christians or Catholics, should be infuriated by it as well. You know what you're getting into, and I think it's very sanctimonious of players to turn around and say, well, I'm not going to do it for religious reasons. I think that's... I also have to say, sometimes when players... I don't know if this is true of football, it's definitely true of cricket. Sometimes when players stand up and say that they object to something, they normally do it because of social pressures. It could be a certain political allegiance they have back home. It could be certain funding that they're receiving or sponsorships that they're personally receiving. So they have to take political or a certain stance just to kind of portray a certain image. Yeah. It's like in cricket, for example. It's a very kind of facetious example to give. But you know when, say, Pakistan have won the cricket, this is like going back years ago, I remember when Ian Botham was playing. Say Pakistan won, and the cameras would all be in the fitting rooms, and so they'd be presented with a massive bottle of champagne. So the captain would always shun the champagne, say, no, you know, we don't drink. But you know that once the cameras are gone, they're all drinking with the other players.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So it's just one of these kind of, I suppose, impression or a certain image that has to be portrayed, as opposed to it being a political or religious reason.
But you know what? No, that's an interesting one, because I mean, some clubs do very much accommodate players of certain faiths. The example, Gman Gezzie, you remember this? It was recently when Bayern Munich won the Bundesliga, and Franck Ribéry was fuming because I think it was Jerome Boateng threw beer on it.
Yeah,
But
and he said, "Look, I don't drink."
Yeah, but it turned out that it was actually non-alcoholic beer. So Ribery and Boateng kind of patched things up. But yeah, apparently it was actually non-alcoholic. So Bayern Munich obviously accommodated for their players of different faiths. So there are examples of clubs actually really accommodating them in different ways. So it may be that Newcastle could say, well, we're going to change our sponsor willy-nilly, but we'll give you a prayer room just to appease you. Maybe. I don't know. I'm playing devil's advocate here. So, I mean, Samir, do you want to articulate the points that you've put in the Skype chat as well? And by the way, Umbreen, thank you very much for your opinion on that. Sam, would you like to take the stage?
Yeah, sure. Just following on Umbreen, she's very spot on with things that footballers might be linked to beyond. Although she said on political and religious, sometimes even political. Like you've seen, for example, the former footballer George Weah, who's a hero of mine from Milan, and how he went on to try and become the leader of Liberia, where he's from. And I know for a fact that there were people that were advising him during his Milan days how to live his life, the affiliations, because he knew when he become a sort of the high-level footballer that he was effectively a living advert for that country.
He's an ambassador, a great ambassador.
Yeah, exactly. And now it's a bigger deal with. I mean, I'm using Africa as a big example because Africa is a country that has, it is the face of many of the countries within the continent of change. And you look at, say, the Ivory Coast with all their footballers that come to, and I use the example of Didier Drogba with the Didier Drogba Foundation and the amount of work he's doing there. And he is portrayed as a family man, which he is, and a role model, and he might not be everyone's cup of tea on the football pitch, but the work that he does is unparalleled. Yeah. So that means there is an element of you have to be seen to be doing certain things. But then you get the other side where some footballers, I was talking about, I think I'm a bit obsessed at the moment. I keep talking about ownership of players. I'm just reading it a lot, where you can't be 100% sure about what they're saying, how disingenuous it may be to actually what's going on behind the scenes. And it wouldn't shock me if the Cisse situation, I'm not saying he's a puppet, I'm not going to criticise him for that, he's entitled to his opinion. It just came across as a little bit strange that, as the points have been made, that cultural sensitivity aside, that's very important. Why this has come out at this point, and it wouldn't be something that would happen when you're not even when you. I mean, I made a point in the Skype chat about when you sign a contract, your agent or your representative should have been asking those questions about 6 months before you sign for that club. Who are your sponsors? What importance is this betting sponsor? How will it affect my client? What will it? You're talking about sundry activity. What will my client be asked to do? Will it be on the shirts? Will he be asked to take part in TV or magazine advertisements? Okay, we're not happy about this. We're happy to forego the money that goes on this. Or could we make a contribution to charity of the equivalent money so that, therefore, anything that we're meant to be representing will prove that we are disassociating but still being very much an active part of the club? So it may come across that individuals are being badly advised, or they're, like you said, maybe, I'm not talking about Cisse, they may be a bit pompous, they want to look a certain way, or quite simply, as we've seen with some footballers, it's sometimes an excuse just to make a bit of press for themselves because they're trying to, again, not from Cisse, trying to maybe sideswipe from other negative things that may be going on in their background that they're trying to, as they say in the media, bury, if you see what I mean, and let's hide it under another story. It sounds like it's a very convoluted situation, and sometimes, ironically, we talked about the media recently. The media jumps on one point but doesn't actually realise that this is about something completely different that may have absolutely nothing to do with religion. But at the moment, with what's going on in society, it may be a case that because there's an intimation that it's religious, that will be the jump on it. Not just intimation, in this case it was made clear it was about religion, but that may not be what's going on behind the scenes. So,
Well, I mean, it's a case of, and thank you for that, Sam. I mean, it's a case of, the parasitic media definitely do jump on points without really thinking, it through. It really, yeah, without really thinking it through properly, and they're just jumping on it. Clearly they're unscrupulous just to make money, so they're just perpetuating whatever agenda they want. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways of looking at this, and in terms of having a, in terms of having a definitive answer, I don't know if we're actually going to get one. We'll try. We are going to keep tabs on. This is one story we will keep tabs on and try and basically give you the cast iron answer in terms of what happens. Because
I do have a question though, right? Because I was trying to remember, wasn't Newcastle one of Newcastle's previous sponsors what Northern Rock, and then after Northern Rock, wasn't it Virgin Money?
Yep, they've had Northern Rock, Virgin Money, they had Newcastle Brown Ale for a long time as well, so there's...
Right, so I'm just kind of like, I'm confused, right? Because I'm pretty sure he was at the club while they were still sponsored by Virgin Money.
Yeah.
Right? Virgin aren't officially a bank, so Virgin Money is only going to be money lending.
Yeah.
Right? So... if he's got an objection to this, what about the objection, in terms of it being publicised?
Yeah.
To wearing the kit with Virgin Money on it?
Yeah.
I mean, are they not one and the same thing?
Well, you know what?
Because the only thing that I can see, right, is that right now, the Wonga and Wonga.com, they've had a lot of bad press with lots and lots of people living below the breadline being in, up to date, beyond the eyeballs. So I'm just like, if it's really about money lending, there should have been objection to Virgin Money as well.
No, very true.
And that should have been publicized too. So it could very well be like what Samir was saying, in that, it's probably not just him. Probably a lot of other things going on as well. Like, for example, we don't know what kind of work he's doing in Senegal, or what he's planning to do in Senegal, or what his plans are post his footballing career, right? But if we go and say, for example, just pretend that he wanted to go and be, I don't know, say like a politician in Senegal, right? And his political group have a lot of religious affiliations and backers, right? Wouldn't something like this potentially really go and harm his standing if that was what he wanted to do? So in order for him to say, listen, even when I was famous for playing football back in England, I was against all these things, and I'm going to make sure that these things never come here.
Yeah.
You have to have continuity between one and the other.
No, you do. Unlike UEFA, FIFA, and the powers that be in football, you have to have some consistency. And if Newcastle are going to bend to a person of one religion, then they're going to have to do it to other relions as well. And
well,
this is why it's such
all about quality, right?
Yeah, this is why it's such a thorny issue. Because why I said earlier, it might open up Pandora's box.